Right. So in our last class, we were trying to discuss about the different states at which the retaining structure would be existing, depending on which the subsequent pressure exerted by the earthen material adjacent to the retaining structure we have understood as active earth pressure, passive earth pressure, and at rest earth pressure condition. And I forgot to mention you something like the so-called earth pressures, whatever we are going to be talking about, it could be active or passive earth pressures. Okay, at rest pressure condition is going to be the same either of the methods which we talked about. We have got two different methods broadly by which we can calculate the earth pressures that are getting developed on your retaining structures. Okay, so the methods by which we can find out your earth pressures is, one is, we have got methods, or rather theories, I should say. We have got different theories by which we can estimate the earth pressures. One is Rankine's earth pressure theory, and the second one is Coulomb's earth pressure theory. Okay, so based on Rankine's earth pressure theory, we'll be trying to look at how to estimate the earth pressures that are getting developed. And based on the Coulomb's earth pressure theory also, we'll be trying to come across. But as of the syllabus is concerned, Coulomb's theory based on which we estimate the earth pressures is not very much focused on. What we'll be focusing mainly on is Rankine's earth pressure theory. Okay, so based on the Rankine's earth pressure theory only, we'll be trying to talk about how to calculate your active earth pressure, passive earth pressure, and then subsequently estimating your state of stress coming into picture on your retaining structure at any different depth. All that we'll be trying to mainly focus on. But however, I'll also just try to give an idea of Coulomb's earth pressure theory also, so that you'll be knowing the difference between Coulomb's theory to that of Rankine's theory. Okay, so what we'll go ahead is with Rankine's earth pressure theory, and then subsequently towards the end we'll be focusing on Coulomb's earth pressure theory. So let's start now with your active and passive states. So as mentioned earlier, if let's say for example, once again, this is a retaining structure, which is what we have considered as a thin plate. If this particular thin plate, if this is a soil element, what I am referring to, if due to the pressure what is coming from the soil on the retaining structure, if you come across with the displacement in the retaining structure like this, if the retaining structure is getting rotated like this or getting displaced like this, so which indicates that your retaining structure is moving away from that soil element what you are looking at. So let's say the displacement in your the top of the retaining structure is something delta. Here what we are understanding is the plate or your retaining structure is moving away from the soil. So the soil is considered to be in active state, or otherwise just about the verge of failure of that soil mass, we consider that to be your limiting equilibrium state. Limiting equilibrium active state, just before the verge of the failure in the soil mass. Okay. So if the retaining structure is moving away from your soil mass, what you are looking at, then the subsequent pressure exerted by the soil on that retaining structure, we call it as your active earth pressure, and the subsequent displacement what you are going to be having in the free head condition of your retaining structure, because the bottom is fixed into the soil, the top is relatively said to be free. So that free head displacement, or the displacement at the free head, is what we are indicating it as delta. And this value of delta depends on in which type of soil this particular so-called retaining structure is embedded into, like whether it is a sandy soil, whether it is a clayey soil deposit. So depending on that, that amount of rotation what we are going to be having, or amount of displacement what you are going to have in your retaining structure, which defines your active state in that particular part of the soil mass. Okay, so that delta value would be depending on the condition of the soil. And similarly, in the case if you are looking at for your passive condition. Now, what do I mean by passive condition? Same example again. So this is my thin retaining plate which we are looking at. And this is a soil element what we are referring again. And if this is the condition of the retaining structure, where the retaining structure is moving rotating towards, I'm not indicating a proper rotated shape. Okay, so if the retaining structure is indicated where the retaining structure is moving towards the soil, then the nature of stress what was getting developed in the horizontal direction is what we call it as your passive earth pressure, or the condition in which the soil is existing is what is called as your passive state. So here I can just say plate is moving towards the soil. So the soil what you are talking about, or the soil element what you have considered, to be there in what is called as passive state. And as more and more the retaining structure move towards the soil, at some point of time, the soil what you are looking at in which the passive earth pressure is getting developed would certainly undergo the failure. So just at the verge of failure, if you are trying to look at how much is that amount of passive earth pressure that was getting developed, because the maximum stress in the horizontal direction what the soil mass or the soil element can resist before it is said to be undergoing the failure is what I can otherwise also call it as your limiting equilibrium passive state. So just at the verge of failure when a passive state of earth pressure is getting developed in that soil. So what is that maximum horizontal stress that the soil element or the soil mass can be subjected to before it is subjected to, before it is undergoing the failure in the passive state. So that's what I'm representing here. And once again, this displacement what we have is what we are going to be indicating it as delta. Now, what is going to be this delta value? In the case of active state of soil, so this particular delta value what you are going to be talking about is said to be relatively small, in the sense for a smaller amount of rotation in the retaining structure where the retaining wall is moving away from the soil, for small amount of rotations itself, the soil would certainly tend to what is called as a limiting equilibrium state just at the verge of failure. And any more further rotation in the retaining structure indicates that your the soil there has undergone the failure. Whereas in the case of passive state, for large displacements also, we see that the soil is not expected to be undergoing failure. It means for even large state of stresses that are getting developed in the horizontal direction on the soil element also, the soil is not undergoing any failure. But beyond some limiting equilibrium condition, yes, truly we are going to see the failure is happening in that particular soil. So what does this delta indicates? Delta indicates the displacement what you are going to be having in your retaining wall. In the case of active state, this displacement is indicated as displacement in the retaining wall, which is away from the soil. And in the case of passive state, this delta is indicated as the displacement in the retaining structure, which is towards your soil. And when we were trying to talk about, I'm using some notation capital H. What does this capital H indicates means? Capital H indicates the height of the retaining structure, or height of your thin plate in this particular case. Or retaining structure. So H is what we consider as the height of your retaining structure. Okay, so let's understand this delta value. So delta value is what we have as 0.001 times the height of the retaining wall. This is in the case of sandy soil deposits, and this also particularly changes depending on whether the sandy soil is a loose condition or a dense condition. This delta value will also be depending on, and this delta is going to be 0.02 times H in the case of your clay soil deposits. And coming to the case of your passive state, if you are looking at the case of passive state, as we said, delta value is relatively large in the sense when compared to active state, the amount of displacement what you are going to have in your retaining structure before the soil is said to be undergoing the failure. So that amount of displacement in the retaining structure towards the soil is relatively more, or large, or we say it is higher when compared to active state. So this delta value is what we can write it as 0.01 times H in the case of sandy soils, and this delta value is something 0.05 times H in the case of your clay soil deposits. Okay, so for smaller amount of displacement itself, when the retaining structure is moving away from your soil, you are going to see the failure happening in the soil. But for even larger amount of displacements in the case of retaining structure moving towards the soil also, you don't see soil easily undergoing the failure. So that's what we clearly understand from this particular discussion. Now, let me say I am talking about a particular soil. Let's say, for example, I am considering a sandy soil. When I say sandy soil, pure cohesionless soil, the C value of that particular soil is 0. What you have is only phi dash. So phi dash is not 0. C value is equal to 0. Now for that particular soil, if I know, once I know what is my C5 parameters of that soil, then can I plot my failure envelope? Okay, this axis indicates me what is your normal stress. This axis indicates me your shear stress. So as the C value is 0 for that soil, only phi is existing. This is what I am calling it as your failure envelope for that particular soil. Let's say for that particular soil in which I am talking about this retaining structure case, I know the C5 parameters. Once the C5 parameters of the soil is known, then corresponding to that C5 parameters, I am representing, or I am indicating your failure envelope for that C5 parameters of the soil. Okay, so this slope of this failure envelope is what we write it as phi dash, where C dash value is equal to 0. Right. Now, let's say when the retaining structure is at rest condition, that means the state of stress existing in that particular soil is nothing but we call it as your at rest earth pressure. Okay, I repeat, the corresponding earth pressure, what we are looking at in the condition of the soil is what we call it as your at rest earth pressure. When I say at rest earth pressure, then how do I calculate your sigma V dash from, sigma H dash from your known sigma V dash? We have already seen in our earlier discussion. For at rest condition, sigma H dash is equal to K naught into sigma V dash. Let's say there is no effect of water table in this particular example. So from my calculated sigma H dash, I can go on to get my sigma H, which is otherwise simply nothing but it is equal to sigma H dash. And let's say once I know the state of stress acting on that particular soil element, this is my ground, this is the retaining wall, this is the soil element what I am looking at, which is at rest. The corresponding state of stress what was existing in this soil element. Okay, so this is the soil element. State of stress acting on the soil element both in the vertical and horizontal direction. I am trying to look at sigma H and sigma V. So that particular state of stress is what I am trying to represent here. So there is no effect of water table. It means that sigma V and sigma V dash are the same. If you have effect of water table, then accordingly you will be having the variation in your sigma h dash and sigma h values, and subsequently sigma v dash and sigma v values. Those variation would be there. Okay, once I know your state of stress acting on that particular soil element which is in rest condition, then can I go on to construct the Mohr circle? Yes, you can go on to construct the Mohr circle. Let's say the Mohr circle corresponding to the state of stress for at rest condition is something this. This is sigma h or sigma h dash. This is your sigma v dash. At rest, when you are talking about at rest condition, we obviously have understood from our earlier discussion that sigma h dash is less than that of your sigma v dash only. In case if the soil has got phi value is equal to 0, then k naught is nothing but 1. In such particular case only, we say sigma h dash is nothing but it is equal to sigma v dash. But for all other phi values which is non-zero, then sigma h dash is always less than that of your sigma v dash. So with that basic idea, I went on to construct a Mohr circle like this. Now, this is the Mohr circle what we have defined for rest condition. When I say rest condition, does it define any failure happening in the soil? It doesn't define any failure happening in the soil when the retaining structure is at rest. That's the reason why if you look at your Mohr circle, not any part, you don't see any part of the Mohr circle touching your failure envelope, what you have defined here. Okay. Now let's say if the retaining structure is moving away from the soil. Now if the retaining structure is moving away from the soil, what is going to happen with regard to the state of stress that was getting developed in the soil? Amount of vertical stress that is getting developed on the soil remains the same, because the element what you have chosen is the same, which is at a particular depth below the ground surface. So your sigma v value or sigma v dash value, what you have calculated with respect to that of rest condition or your active condition or subsequently passive condition for that soil element what you are looking at is the same, because it is chosen at some particular depth. Sigma v dash is same. But what is going to happen if the retaining wall is moving away from the soil element? As the retaining wall starts moving away from the soil element, the amount of horizontal stress, the amount of confining stress in the horizontal direction on that soil element slowly starts decreasing. Let's say, for example, I have some bunch of sticks tied with a rope initially, which is holding all those sticks tightly together. I slowly started releasing that rope with whatever force that I have tied. I slowly release the force from that rope. What would happen? The tightness with which those pack of sticks were closer to each other will slowly start releasing. You might have tied very tightly earlier. Now you are losing that thread, or you are losing that rope. In the process, what is going to happen is the amount of tightness what was existing between those sticks, group of sticks, will slowly release. What does it indicate? If it is slowly releasing, then the amount of pressure what was exerted by one stick on its adjacent sticks would slowly decrease. As the more releasing is done in terms of the rope what is tying those sticks, the more and more removal of that rope, then what you see is that sticks which were tightly closed earlier will slowly start relatively moving, and you would see those sticks will not be holding to each other, rather they will fall away from each other. Which falling away from each other indicates the failure. There is no contact between them. In the same way here also, if the retaining wall starts slowly moving away from that particular soil mass, what you are looking at, so the amount of horizontal stress what was getting developed on that particular soil element will slowly start decreasing. At some amount of state of stress existing on the soil element, you would see the failure happening in that soil. So what does it indicate? Let's say retaining wall slowly started moving away. Then what happens? The amount of vertical stress which was represented on the soil element was same, but amount of horizontal stress what was existing on the soil element slowly started decreasing. Then for that decreased state of stress in the horizontal direction, if I go on to construct the Mohr circle, then I might be getting a Mohr circle like this. Because sigma h dash now is less than that of the sigma h dash what I had earlier, whereas the sigma v dash is remaining the same. Now further retaining wall is further moving away from the soil mass. Then what is happening? Sigma h dash is further decreasing. If sigma h dash is further decreasing, then your radius of the Mohr circle is increasing. And then further moment in the retaining wall indicates that further decrease in the sigma h dash value. Further moment in the retaining wall indicates a further decrease in the retaining, further decrease in the horizontal stress on the soil. And further displacement in the retaining wall indicates a further decrease in the horizontal stress which was getting developed in the soil. And if you look at here, the Mohr circle what I have plotted for that corresponding state of stress is now touching your failure envelope at some point. What does it indicate? Can I have a further displacement in the retaining wall indicating the soil to be still safe and stable? No. Why? Because your Mohr circle what you have plotted for that corresponding state of stress acting on the soil element, which is in the vertical direction, the vertical stress is sigma v dash, and the corresponding horizontal stress what was existing on the soil element is now what I'll be writing it as sigma h dash, in fact, which is to be represented as something sigma a dash. So just at the verge of failure, that is what I said, at the limiting equilibrium state, just at the verge of failure, the amount of horizontal stress which was getting developed on the soil element, okay, is what I'll be calling it as your active earth pressure. I repeat, so the corresponding state of stress what relates to that of the failure in the soil when the retaining wall is moving away from your soil mass. So this state of stress for which the Mohr circle is plotted represents you what is called as your active state. At the limiting equilibrium state corresponding to the active condition, so your soil is at the verge of failure. Can you have some sigma h dash value which is less than that of your sigma a dash value still where your soil is going to be in stable condition? No, because by the time itself the soil sample has failed. Sir, is there a possibility where even with the decrease in stress in the horizontal direction acting on the soil element, do we see the failure happening in the soil? Yes. It's not due to increase in stress. It is due to the decrease in stress the soil is failing. For some particular combination of vertical and horizontal stress, the soil is safe. But vertical stress remaining the same, horizontal stress if you slowly start decreasing on the soil element, then the amount of state of stress which was existing in the vertical direction corresponding to a condition of horizontal stress acting on that soil element do not keep your soil in stable condition. Rather, it is going to cause the yielding in the soil, or it is going to cause the failure in the soil. So the corresponding state of stress at which the failure is happening in the soil when the retaining wall is moving away from the soil is what is called as your active stress or active earth pressure, which is indicated in the horizontal direction. Hope you have understood what I have said. Next, the same thing, let us understand from our passive state condition point of view. Because even in the case of passive state also, if you are looking at the soil element, what happens? Initially, the soil element is in rest condition, and as your retaining wall slowly starts moving towards that particular soil element, what is going to happen? Amount of vertical stress what was getting developed on the soil element is still the same, but the amount of vertical stress which was acting on the soil element is still the same, but amount of horizontal stress what was getting developed on your soil element tends to continuously increase as your retaining wall starts moving towards your soil. The same thing, group of sticks, you are slowly tightening further with the help of a rope. Because of more and more tightening that you do, more and more closely those particles are going to be packed to each other, or your group of sticks are going to be packed to each other, because of which the more amount of stress transfer happens from one particle to the other particle, because you are trying to confine those particles relatively closer to each other by pushing your retaining wall towards the soil. So in the process, the horizontal stress continues to increase, whereas your vertical stress remains the same in that soil element when I am looking at. So what is going to happen is sigma V dash is remaining constant, but sigma H dash value was increasing. Okay, and further moment in the retaining wall towards your soil, your sigma H dash value further increase. So for which, if I plot the Mohr circle, I'll be having a Mohr circle like this, and further increase in sigma H dash value might give you a Mohr circle like this. Further increase in the sigma H dash value would give you a Mohr circle like this. Further increase in your sigma H dash value would give you a Mohr circle like this. Further increase in sigma H dash value would give you a Mohr circle like this. Further increase in sigma H dash value would give you the Mohr circle like this. Understand? Now, even I am trying to push your retaining structure towards the soil, though higher horizontal stresses are getting developed, still the soil is not undergoing the failure. Okay. Further moment of your retaining structure towards the soil, there is a further increase in the horizontal stress developed in that soil element or the soil mass. And at some point of horizontal stress, what was getting developed in the soil, you would see that the failure is getting initiated in the soil. So the corresponding horizontal stress, what is getting applied in that soil when the retaining structure is moving towards the soil just before the verge of the failure. If you look at here, this Mohr circle, what I have plotted, the last. Okay, so what is it corresponding to? This is corresponding to a state of stress developed in your soil element, which indicates you what is your the failure in the soil, because for that corresponding state of stress acting on the soil element, we understand that your Mohr circle is touching your failure envelope. So this corresponding horizontal stress is what I can now call it as your passive earth pressure. Okay. Now, hope you have seen, you are clearly able to see three dark circles which I have plotted, one corresponding to the rest condition, other corresponding to the passive condition, and the third corresponding to this one corresponding to, earlier one corresponding to the active condition, and this one corresponding to your passive condition. So with respect to those three conditions, we had three Mohr circles which are plotted for the corresponding state of stress, what that soil has been subjected to, or that chosen soil element has been subjected to. Now, if I clearly see, in the case of at rest condition, sigma H dash value is always less than or equal to sigma V dash, that is for sure. In the case of active state, if I want to understand the same phenomena, same concept, sigma H dash is always less than that of your sigma V dash. That means sigma H dash, which is otherwise also called as your active earth pressure. From sigma H dash, we will be getting sigma H, and from sigma H, we will be getting what is sigma H is otherwise also called as your sigma A, which we are calling it as your active earth pressure. Whenever you use the word active earth pressure, it means it is your total horizontal stress at the verge of limiting equilibrium condition due to during your active state. That is what is called as your active earth pressure. Okay, so active earth pressure is always less than that of your vertical stress that was getting developed on your soil element. But when it comes to the case of your passive state, in the case of passive state, if you look at your horizontal stress, what was getting developed on the soil element just before the verge of failure, just at the verge of failure in the soil element. So we understand that your horizontal effective stress is much higher than that of your vertical effective stress. Okay, so your passive earth pressure is going to be greater than that of your vertical stress, what you are trying to talk about in your soil. Okay, now let me understand in the other way. In the case of earth pressure, whenever we are trying to talk about, we said on both the planes of your chosen soil element, the state of stress what was existing on the soil element if I am looking at that particular soil element, this is my soil element. We said on both the planes, this is my horizontal plane, and this is my vertical plane. On both the planes, that is on horizontal plane as well as on your vertical plane, we said shear stresses what are acting, tau is what is considered to be 0. In the next class, we'll try to talk about the assumptions behind this Rankin's theory, which I have not touched upon. So in the next class at the starting, we'll try to talk about those assumptions, which will also give you an idea of, okay, what are the assumptions that are made behind this particular Rankin's theory, based on which this particular active earth pressure as well as the passive earth pressure theories which we are trying to talk about have come up. Okay, so what type of stresses were getting developed on those soil elements, both on your horizontal plane as well as on the vertical plane? It is only your normal stresses which are acting on those soil elements. So vertical stress is what I am indicating it as sigma V. Horizontal stress is what I am indicating it as sigma H. There are no shear stresses acting on any of those planes on which you are representing your state of stress acting on that particular soil element. So in case of at rest condition, which is my major principal plane, which is my minor principal plane? Okay, so in the case of at rest condition, we know that sigma H is less than or equal to, or rather in most of the cases, it is obviously less than that of your sigma V. So where is sigma H acting in the case of at rest condition? Sigma H is acting, okay, always sigma H acts on the vertical plane, sigma V acts on the horizontal plane. And in the case of at rest condition, sigma H, we are saying it is less than sigma V. So sigma H is what we call it as your minor principal stress, whereas your sigma V is what we call it as your major principal stress. Okay, hope you have understood why I am calling it as sigma H as your minor principal stress and sigma V as your major principal stress. And in the case of active state, which is my major principal stress? Major principal stress is still your sigma V, or sigma V dash is only your major principal stress. Because when I am looking at the state of stress acting on the soil element at which the soil is failing, so sigma V dash value is higher than that of your sigma H dash. Okay, and whereas your active earth pressure or your horizontal stress, what was existing on the soil just at the verge of failure, is what is called as your minor principal stress, because sigma A is always less than that of your vertical stress which is getting developed on your soil element in the case of your active state. And when it comes to the case of your passive state, which is my major principal stress and which is my minor principal stress, here in the case of passive state, sigma V or sigma V dash is considered to be your minor principal stress. If you can recall from the Mohr circle what we have looked at, minor principal stress value is your vertical stress. This is for your passive state of stress condition. Sigma V dash is the minor value, minor in the sense smaller value, and sigma P or sigma P dash what we have represented is indicating you the maximum value. It means your major principal stress in the case of your passive state is your horizontal stress. That's nothing but your passive earth pressure, what we are indicating it as your horizontal stress, is what we call it as your major principal stress in the case of the passive state. So horizontal stress in the case of passive state is going to be the major principal stress, and vertical stress in the case of passive state is what is considered as your minor principal stress. And please do understand how the stress reversal is taking place. In the case of active or at rest condition, your horizontal plane on which the major principal stress is acting, that's the vertical stress is acting. But in the case of your passive state, my major principal plane is not the horizontal plane, rather it is called as your vertical plane, because on that vertical plane your maximum normal stress is acting before the failure of the soil. So as the maximum normal stress is acting on the vertical plane, so that vertical plane is going to be called as your major principal plane, on which your major principal stress is acting in the horizontal direction. So please do understand the variation in terms of which is called as your major principal plane, which is called as your minor principal plane, or which is called as the major principal stress or minor principal stress in these different states, like at rest condition, or maybe in the case of active state condition, or either in the case of your passive state condition. So in the case of active state, if I want to understand the relation between the horizontal effective stress to that of your vertical effective stress, horizontal effective stress is what we write it as Ka into sigma V dash, where this Ka is what we call it as coefficient of active earth pressure. Okay, so it's nothing but it's a coefficient of earth pressure, but at active state. In the similar way, in the case of passive state, if I want to understand to define the relation between sigma h dash and sigma v dash, so we represent it by relating with a coefficient of earth pressure parameter, which is indicated as Kp, where this Kp is what we write it as coefficient of passive earth pressure. Okay, so Ka and Kp, where the expression for Ka is what we'll be getting it as 1 minus sine phi by 1 plus sine phi, which we'll be deriving in the next class. Or in terms of the effective shear strength parameters, if I'm writing it, it's nothing but 1 minus sine phi dash by 1 plus sine phi dash. And this expression for Kp is what we write it as 1 plus sine phi dash by 1 minus sine phi dash, which we can also go on to derive it, which we'll be trying to derive from the same fundamental concepts by looking at your Mohr circle, what you have represented corresponding to that failure condition of the soil, or just at the verge of limiting equilibrium condition. So we'll be looking at the condition of that Mohr circle, and then from that Mohr circle, we go on to derive that Ka and Kp expressions. That's the coefficient of earth pressure for active state and coefficient of earth pressure for your passive state. Okay. So now, if I just want to plot a graph between coefficient of earth pressure versus the displacement, what is happening in your retaining structure, vertical axis on which I am indicating your coefficient of earth pressure, and on the horizontal axis I am indicating you the displacement delta. Now, when there is no displacement happening, if delta value is equal to 0, if delta is equal to 0, what is it indicating? It is indicating at rest condition. If delta is equal to 0, how do we calculate your coefficient of earth pressure? So which we write it as K0, which is given as 1 minus sine phi dash. So if you know the phi value of that particular soil, then accordingly I can go on to calculate your K0 value for the delta is equal to 0. So let's say the K0 value, what I am getting is something this. Okay, this indicates me some K0 for delta is equal to 0. And what is going to happen here is, if the retaining wall is moving away is indicated as negative. Okay, delta is negative, indicating you that retaining wall is moving away from soil. And obviously delta is considered positive when retaining wall is moving towards the soil. Okay, when the retaining wall is moving towards the soil, we consider the delta value to be positive. Okay, so if your delta value is positive, that means if the retaining wall is moving towards the soil, then your subsequent coefficient of earth pressure, what we are going to be calculating, comes out to be higher, because from the earlier expression which I simply gave, which I have not derived it, which I simply gave, is saying that coefficient of earth pressure under passive state is what is given as 1 plus sine phi dash by 1 minus sine phi dash for any phi value, for phi value greater than 0. So if I go on to calculate my Kp value is going to be greater than 1. Okay. In the case of active state, if you want to talk about your coefficient of earth pressure under the active state, so the expression for Ka is what is given as 1 minus sine phi dash by 1 plus sine phi dash. So for any phi value which is greater than 0, we get the Ka value to be less than 1. Okay. So, and we also understand that Ka is always less than that of your K0 for all phi value greater than 0. If you just want to look at the relation in terms of your Ka, K0 and Kp, let's say for example, for some phi is equal to 30 degrees if I consider. So for phi is equal to 30 degrees if I consider, what will be my K0 value? K0 is nothing but 1 minus sine 30, which is sine 30 is equal to half. So K0 is nothing but half. What about Ka? Ka is nothing but 1 minus sine 30 by 1 plus sine 30. So 1 minus half by 1 plus half. So which comes out to be half by 3 by 2. So which is other way, nothing but Ka is equal to 0.33. And what about Kp? Kp comes out to be 1 plus half by 1 minus half. So which is nothing but Kp is equal to 3. So Ka is 0.33, K0 is 0.5 and Kp is 3, which indicates that Ka is always less than that of your K0 and K0 which is always less than that of your Kp. Hope I made you some sense in this particular statement. Whenever you are talking about your earth pressure, in the case of active state, active earth pressure is going to be less than that of your at rest condition earth pressure is less than that of what is called as your passive earth pressure. Sir, how do I say that? So we know that sigma h dash is nothing but simply K0 or sigma h dash is nothing but simply K into sigma V dash. So if K is more, sigma h dash is more. If K is less, automatically sigma h dash is less. That's what simple fundamentals from which I can go on to understand. And if more and more is the displacement in the retaining wall towards the soil, then what happens is more and more is the confinement in the soil. If more and more is the confinement in the soil, more is your horizontal stress at which your soil is certainly undergoing the failure. So if I just want to understand, this is how the variation in that profile would be. And whereas in this case, it would be like this. Let me erase it and once again draw it. Yeah, this point corresponds to K0 condition. Okay, so for some maximum amount of displacement away from the retaining wall at which the failure is getting initiated in the soil. So this is nothing but 0.001 H, if you can recall. And in the case of passive state, we said the maximum amount of displacement that we can have just before the verge of the failure in that particular retaining wall is 0.01 H. Let's say this plot, what I am indicating is for the case of a sandy soil deposit. In the case of clay soil deposit, your displacement, what you are going to have in the retaining wall just before the failure, in the case of active state, delta is going to be maximally equal to 0.02 H in the case of active state, and in the case of passive state for clay soil deposit, it was 0.05 H. Okay, so that's what you have to clearly understand from what we have discussed. And the corresponding coefficient of earth pressure corresponding for this passive state is indicated as Kp. For the active state is what is indicated as Ka. So from this also we clearly understand Ka is always less than that of your K0 and which is always less than that of your Kp value. Okay, so With this, we'll stop our discussion for today, and in our next class, we'll start understanding how to derive that expression for Ka and Kp, which we have directly given here. And whatever we have been talking about for now is only for your purely cohesionless soil. In case if the soil is not having only phi value, if it has got both C and phi parameters, then in such particular case, how do we go on to understand the relation between horizontal effective stress to that of your vertical effective stress and so on, which we will be trying to talk about in our next subsequent classes. Okay. So thank you all.